Greetings, listeners. This is Daniel. I'm just giving you a heads up. The audio quality of this episode is not going to be quite as good as usual, which I realize is already not that great to begin with, but Steven was out of town, so we had to do this via Skype. So all you audio snobs, I apologize. I'm going to pop back in at the end just to tell you what we're going to read next week, but for now I will turn it over to past Steven.
Welcome to Offscreen. This week we're reading Ronnie Rocket by David Lynch. A detective seeks to enter a mysterious second dimension while being stalked by a group of men who wield electricity as a weapon.
Well, David Lynch. What do we have to say about David Lynch?
Well, everyone knows David Lynch, right? And this is
not necessarily. He's like a cult movie director, I would say.
I think everyone listening to our podcast has heard of David Lynch, even if they haven't maybe seen any of his movies. You don't need to feel bad.
Well, you're just saying like, oh, everyone knows, so they're gonna feel stupid.
You're the one using words like stupid. Now they're gonna feel bad.
But yeah, he's I guess put on the map by the movie Eraserhead. Is that fair to say?
That was his first movie. Yeah. 1979, I want to say.
Really? Was it that early?
Oh, maybe it was later. Let me check. 77.
Really?
Yeah, 77.
It started as I think a student film of his, right? That he completed like years later.
Yeah.
I think I remember I heard some kind of a documentary or something about it where there is a particular part of the movie where the main character enters a door and then it cuts to inside the room, and apparently like several years had passed between the shot that was outside the room and then the shot inside the room.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I think it's pretty well matched. Like, you can't really tell.
Yeah, and this script that we read, as we'll get into more, is kind of reminiscent of Eraserhead.
Right. Yeah, I would say a lot.
Which, like, Wikipedia describes as a surrealist body horror film. Very industrial, like.
Yeah, industrial I think is an important word. But it's still, like, not at all conventional. So it's hard to really...
Nothing that Lynch does is probably readily described as conventional.
So yeah, we should maybe mention a couple other things of his.
Yeah, I think probably Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive are his two most famous, other than Eraserhead.
And then Twin Peaks, the TV show.
Right, which is coming back for the third season, right?
I think they're rebooting it. I don't know if it's going to pick up right where it left off or what. I'm not really sure.
They're rebooting it, as in from the jump?
No, I don't think they're like gonna remake the same story again. I think they're just resuscitating it from this long stint. Whatever. The Elephant Man. It's another big movie of his, which I haven't seen actually. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't actually.
But I think it's much more. That one is much more conventional. And I think what I heard or read somewhere was that David Lynch made Eraserhead, and a lot of people liked it and took notice, and some studios approached him and were like, hey, we want to help you make your next movie. What do you want to do? And he showed them the script for this, Ronnie Rocket, and they're like, okay, no, never mind. How about one of these scripts? And they gave him some others to choose from, and The Elephant Man was one of them, and he ended up making that.
Interesting.
That was what I heard.
Okay.
Which it's interesting to think what would have happened if they had let him make Ronnie Rocket instead. I mean, I would like to think that the trajectory of his career wouldn't have really changed that much, because it seems like after that he went on to still pretty much just do whatever he wants to do.
Did he have a good experience with Elephant Man, or was it something that made him say, hey, I'm just going to do the projects I want to do from now on?
I don't really know. I don't think it was a bad experience, I would guess. I mean, the movie was pretty successful, I think, right? It was well received.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it maybe tempered his weirdness a little bit. Like, if that experience opened him up to being a little more by the books. I don't know. I mean, his other films are still so weird. But
all of his other movies after that are just weird.
I guess what I'm saying is, what if they would have been even weirder? if he hadn't done The Elephant Man. Who knows? I guess we'll never know.
I don't know, but like Inland Empire is like self-financed, or not, maybe not self-financed, but there's no studio affiliation, and he shot it on like the cameras he wanted, like on the time frame that he wanted. He doesn't seem encumbered too much.
Right. Anyway, do we have anything else to say about Mr. Lynch?
No, I think you can hop into the synopsis and good luck.
He has maybe the best hair of anyone I've seen.
In the world or of filmmakers?
Just in the world, I'd say.
Interesting.
I think Jim Jarmusch is just trying to copy him.
Wow, that's some serious shade at Jim Jarmusch. I know you
like him, but
I mean they're pretty much contemporaries.
Yeah, but I still think Lynch established that hairstyle first.
I don't know. I feel like that's a bold claim to make.
We'll have to do a little research on this later, but in any case, even if David Lynch didn't invent that hairstyle, he perfected it.
Sure, okay, that's fine.
Also,
and I mean their hairstyles aren't identical either.
No, not really. But I think
David Lynch's is more of a straight up get up, and Jarmusch is just more like all directional.
Yeah. But also speaking of hair, in Eraserhead, the character in Eraserhead has also like some really tall hair. And on a similar note, the movie Barton Fink, I have to believe that is also sort of an intentional similarity between the characters' hairstyles. You know, like John Turturro's character has this crazy, really tall, kind of a Jew fro going on. Anyway.
Also interesting about David Lynch's hair, like the whole very short on the sides and like long on front, like that's popular now. I mean, I guess it was probably done in a different era, like
sure
60 years ago, but David Lynch maybe is a reference point for that or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, synopsis.
Okay, yeah, let's finally get to it. Okay. A bleak, industrialized city, polluted and perpetually hazy. A horribly disfigured man named Ronald is kidnapped from the hospital by two rogue doctors, Bob and Dan, who reconstruct his face in a series of bizarre experimental procedures. Meanwhile, an unnamed detective investigates whatever it was that happened to Ronald in the first place. He learns from the locals that someone has reversed the city's electricity, draining its power in a mysterious and sometimes deadly process. As the detective closes in on a factory which seems to be at the heart of the problem, Ronald, with his new and improved face, has re-entered the world. As a result of his operations, he has to plug himself in every 15 minutes to recharge, but in a chance encounter with a local high school rock band, it's discovered that he can also act as a kind of amplifier. Ronnie Rocket, as he's now called, takes the city by storm, playing concerts which recharge audiences both figuratively and literally. When at last the unnamed detective infiltrates the factory in question, he confronts a man named Hank who runs the place. A surreal mental showdown between the two brings the factory down in flames. The city is saved, and Ronnie is heralded as a hero by the townspeople. That's all I got. That's about the best I can do.
What about that stuff at the end with like them merging and then like that little girl?
Yeah, we need to just talk about that because I have no clue what that was about. But maybe let's wait and we'll get to that.
Okay.
What did you think overall? Are you a fan of his movies even? I don't really remember.
I really like Mulholland Drive. I haven't seen Blue Velvet. I thought Lost Highway was okay, I guess.
Okay. But yeah.
I guess Mulholland Drive's my favorite of them. But yeah, it was quite bizarre, quite surreal. It's kind of hard to make sense of it all, maybe. I don't know. What do you?
Well, I don't know. I really enjoyed reading it. And I think, as I mentioned to you before we were recording, it struck me that it's like, in some ways, intensely personal. It seems to me, just in the sense that like, it really feels like this is just the unfiltered thoughts of David Lynch. He's not being self-conscious about it at all, or editing or anything. It's just like pouring straight out of his mind.
It's very stream of consciousness.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't seem to have much regard for time, the passage of time in the script. It's more about the the flow of ideas and like the thought
Well,
process.
there's a dreamlike quality to both the writing and to the story.
Right.
How characters can like appear and disappear, or
Right. And like the
how like
paragraphs.
how in dreams where. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, the paragraphs oftentimes are just big blocks of text which can even span multiple scenes. Like, there's not even any, like, slug lines, saying, okay, now we're here, and now we're in this room. Sometimes it'll just start describing another room in the same paragraph. But were you going to say something about...
Oh, just like the kind of like the dream logic of it, where like you'll go into something with one intention, but then like you'll suddenly be like somewhere else, like doing something entirely different.
Right.
And everything before is kind of just hazy or not even really there.
Yeah.
Like they're motivated. The detective's motivated throughout the story by trying to find Hank, who is
the guy who's draining all of the electricity.
Right. But like apart from that, there's no real like rhyme or reason to how he gets there.
Right. It's interesting, and I think this is an important thing to note. The detective seems like an outsider, and you don't really know where he's coming from, but he keeps moving further into the heart of the city, and the closer that you get to Hank at the heart of the city, he's in the very innermost city, the more confusing things become, and the harder it is for you to concentrate or even control yourself. And all of this is explained to the detective by other people, especially a character named Terry. And it helps, I think. It's good that the detective is, sort of like a surrogate for the audience, which is a really common device, but in this case, especially
But it's
helpful.
essential here because it gives an actual reason for why Terry is explaining all this stuff to him.
And even when Terry...
So that it doesn't seem as straight exposition.
Right, and even when Terry is just laying it out for him and really kind of spoon-feeding it to him, Terry's way of describing things is very, abstract at times, or metaphorical, or just indirect. And so it's great when, the detective will just say, okay, I have no idea what you're talking about. You need to explain that better. He'll actually say things like that, and it's kind of funny, and it's refreshing, and it helps give a little perspective to what's going on, so that you're not just totally, at least if you are lost, you know that you're not alone in being lost.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think understanding things moment to moment is really important here.
Yeah, I agree.
Because for the surreal, dreamlike quality that it takes on, it's not really about the logical connections between things. It's more about the metaphor, the symbol,
right?
So on and so forth. Ronnie's the main character. Obviously, the script's called Ronnie Rocket.
Well,
the other
I don't know. The detective, I would say, is more of the main character, actually.
Yeah, but I feel like it's kind of delving into the psyche of Ronnie Rocket, and these other people are inhabiting parts of it to a certain extent.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if that's totally off base, but at the very end, when they defeat Hank, they all merge together.
Right.
It says the detective, Terry, Bob, Dan, Deborah, Diane, Riley all float and merge inside of Ronnie, as if and then my take, but as if they were all parts of Ronnie all along.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess that does make sense in a way.
I feel like there's such a kind of a Freudian thing with the id and the ego and the superego, and these people they all act so impulsively, it's just uninhibited id.
Okay, yeah.
Or people that have been exposed to lead paint and just completely lack impulse control.
Yeah.
Because you just see the detective's supposed to be doing detective work, and he enters a house and he starts talking to someone, but then a woman comes up to him and exposes her breasts to him.
That happens multiple times.
And suddenly they're just making out, and then he has to flee because he pissed off the other people in the house.
Right.
So his discipline just isn't there. It's
that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah.
I don't know. That's just what I the complete. These people are all just really destitute too in this world as they go deeper and deeper into it.
Right.
And I guess kind of what made me think of it too, or think that way, think of it in those terms, is also the fact that there's like a inner city, like they keep going deeper and deeper into the city, as if like they're going deeper and deeper into whatever the source is, or
Right.
like deeper inside of Ronnie. I don't know. Totally speculative, but
Yeah.
what, do you have any overarching take or?
Well, yeah, I don't know, there seems to be some sort of social commentary going on. Like you were saying, everyone is very poor, and it's a very industrialized city, and he's constantly describing the pollution just being like spewed into the air, and
Yeah.
it centers on this guy who's draining all the electricity. I don't know, it was interesting because it seems like simultaneously to be criticizing and praising like that industrialization, because like they need the power, that they're suffering because they don't have any power. Or I don't know if it's trying to say something about how reliant we are on electricity. I don't know what kind of statement that's really making, but at least it was a motif or a thing you could at least follow through the story.
Sure.
I was gonna refer to the part. This is like, it's when the detective, he's on the run.
I think so.
Yeah, he's on the run from some of these police officers that are chasing him, and he's running through a house, and he's going through all these different rooms where it's just like different strange things happening, like really mundane things, but they seem to be memories. It reminded me a lot of like Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, where at one point they're just like running through all these rooms, and like a window will lead through a door, and then a door will lead to like a crawl space or whatever, and it's like all these otherwise unconnected places that he's just like traveling through, and gets a glimpse of all these different memories.
Right. I don't know. There's a lot being made, or there's a lot made of like things happening, like things repeating, like things moving in a circle, happening
Right.
over and
the
over.
circle is a very important symbol throughout this.
Yeah. As if like what's happened will happen again.
Right.
I don't know.
I think they do say that. And then I think it also just has to do with, like you were saying, that like alternating kind of, I don't know how, I'm having a hard time explaining this, but like there's
like a circuit kind of.
Well, yeah, there's like a sense of,
Also
there's like a sense of flow about things. Not just like literally with the electricity flow, but like a certain kind of balance or state of mind that has to do with you being more calm and like collected and letting things flow through you, kind of, is what I guess I'm getting at. Maybe I'm reading into this, but there's a big deal made about how the detective can stand on one foot, and like nobody else can do that in this world, and that's amazing to them, because he's has like the presence of mind not only to stand on his foot, but he can also talk while he's doing it, and this just amazes everyone, and it ends up like helping him in some way. It proves that he is like strong enough mentally to be able to actually infiltrate like the innermost, sanctum of like Hank in the factory and everything. So I thought that was really interesting. It's like a state of mind thing. So yeah, I don't know.
Did you like this overall?
Yeah, I did, but I don't know if I would enjoy watching. I guess I would probably enjoy watching it more than reading it, actually.
I think so too. I mean, it's very atmospheric. It's very like detailed, like tactile, kind of like sensory.
Yeah.
The industrialized world, like just thick with soot and like filth.
And I would really love to see some of the scenes with like Bob and Dan when they're building Ronnie's face. Like some of that sounded so crazy. And that was an interesting thing too. I don't know if this was supposed to be some kind of a commentary either, but they're trying really hard. They have like a schematic or like a plan that they drew up of like the average handsome man and what it should look like. And they're trying to like make him look like that, which is really a futile effort, and he ends up looking, I think, pretty grotesque actually from the way they describe him.
They're like bumbling idiots.
Oh, Bob and Dan, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't really go into much description with them, but they're pretty funny too. They provide a lot of good humor in the
They're script. Like funny, but the jokes are about them, they're not making jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like weird, like. Yeah, this is very, very weird. It's a very weird screenplay overall.
Yeah, just a mind dump for David Lynch, basically.
Sure.
But because of that, yeah, it doesn't feel very planned at all. There's, like very basic structural stuff in place, but that's because, like, okay, if you ask me, we're always talking about, like, oh, here's the end of Act 1, here's the end of Act 2, the midpoint, whatever. Those aren't really things that you even need to strive for when you're writing a story, if you ask me. I mean, it's just going to happen naturally. If you're telling a story that is at all coherent, it's going to naturally have those things. Like, yeah, of course you need a moment where you introduce the conflict and you launch that main tension that's going to carry you throughout the rest of the story. Like, that has to happen at some point if you want to tell a normal story. So even this, even though it's really a bizarre story, still has some of those sort of like structural landmarks in it, but I don't think they were planned at all.
No, I would doubt it.
I'm surprised that there are even 2 versions. So there are like multiple drafts that you can find of this.
So how different was the other one that we saw?
I don't know. I didn't really take much
time.
Because
the PDF that I have looks pretty similar.
Yeah.
Or feels pretty similar. One I sent you, but.
Because what I was gonna say is I would be surprised if David Lynch went back and did much rewriting, like anything very intensive.
Agreed.
There was an interesting thing about when they're going into the city and things are becoming more and more confusing, they are able to hurt themselves, and that somehow brings them clarity. Like, they all end up stabbing themselves with needles constantly to keep their...
Because if they lose consciousness, then they die, allegedly.
Right. So it, like, helps keep their mind sharp. It helps keep them in the moment to feel pain. That was kind of a almost like sad thing, a sad idea to me, is that, like, pain is the only thing that keeps you present, and it's like the only thing that's kind of...
But I mean, like, if you get stabbed with something, you immediately are going to concentrate on being stabbed, and it's going to be like,
Yeah, I don't know what else to make of it, like, on the whole. I think it's enough that I found it funny at times and, like, interesting. It was consistently holding my interest, and even if it wasn't working in the same way that I think most typical movies kind of engage your interest, because, to me anyway, again, maybe this is a personal thing, but I think a large part of what good screenwriting should do is be very aware of the questions that your audience is asking and controlling those questions. So you know that at a certain point in the story, you want the audience to be wondering, okay, will he be able to do this? Will he be able to do X, Y, Z? Or is this character going to win, or this character? Or just very discrete, clear, tangible steps.
Sure.
That you use to control the tension and the unraveling of the plot. So it didn't work like that at all. The interest that it held for me was purely, like, I have no idea where it's going in terms of plot, but I found some of the characters interesting, the world, the atmosphere, and just the, like, bizarre imagery and stuff was enough. And it was consistently interesting on that level. So that's good.
Very idiosyncratic, too. It's not something that maybe seen much of before.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I don't really know what else to say. I feel like simultaneously we haven't explained the story very well, but also that we, like, can't explain it any better.
Yeah. Towards the end, Terry says nothing except that things keep going round and round. You've got to remember that, round and round, round and round. Get it? And then the detective says, well, maybe you're right. These symbols are important, maybe. A broken circle, a broken shoelace, both the same. Life is a donut. A circle, the circle club, the circles at the gates. So, like, maybe, like, yeah, these are all, like, physical manifestations of this circuitous, like, concept.
Yeah. Well, and, like, the ending, we were talking about briefly how all the characters kind of, like, merge into one. And suddenly we are whisked away. It's suddenly like a room. We're in a room filled with water. It looks like an ocean. And there's, like, a golden egg floating in the water. And we're made to understand that Ronnie is that egg somehow. And there's, like, these godlike figures or, like, deities or something talking about how there's, like, a new universe is going to be born, and that one is named Ronnie.
Yeah. A small girl sits on her father's lap. We see the strangely beautiful girl, but the father's back is to us. Father, when will all the new universes be born? soon. And when they are, I'm going to get you a great big chocolate. So yeah, it's like very deity-like, but also very like on the human level, I guess too.
Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know. This one's a little hard to talk about, I guess, and probably would be very interesting visually on screen.
I know. I wish I could have just seen it. I wish you would have made it, but really, you just have to read the script, I guess, if you want a better idea of what we're talking about. It's really hard to describe.
Yeah.
But should we do verdicts? Should
we talk about? Well, this is the screenplay from the poll from our poll
right.
A while back that didn't win. So all of you guys that voted for Ronnie Rocket, it's your lucky day.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this, it's probably because something happened in Steven's or my life that caused us not to be able to record for the week, and so we dug this one out.
I mean, we might just use it for funsies at some point in time.
Yeah, sure. Who knows?
Who knows? We can plug our stuff just the same.
Sure. Of course.
We're on iTunes. We're on Facebook. We're on Stitcher, YouTube, Twitter. Our email address is info@ospodcast.com. Our website is ospodcast.com.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, we really appreciate people listening.
Yeah.
And we love iTunes ratings and reviews. Those are the best.
Of course.
Emails, all sorts of stuff.
What is that? Is there a noise?
My mom's watering outside. I'm back home visiting my parents.
It sounds like a humming sound.
Yeah, it's the hose.
Weird.
Yeah. All right, it's gone now. All right, we're back.
So verdicts? Should we attempt?
Yeah, you go first.
I don't know. I guess I wanna praise the writing, if not the story itself. Like, I think I would probably pass on the script.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for the sake of this very bizarre script, I will give a very bizarre verdict, and I will pass on the script but recommend the writer.
Okay.
Because I really do appreciate, like, I think it's a really rare thing that you can find someone who is able to lay out all of their thoughts in a really unfiltered way without, like I said, without seeming pretentious about it
or feeling forced.
Right, because he's making fun of himself a little bit, like I was saying, there are characters at times that are just like, what are you talking about? And so he seems to acknowledge that this is bizarre. He's not just being weird for the sake of being weird. It doesn't feel like what Terrence Malick feels like to me.
Well, they're entirely different filmmakers, but
in the sense of their movies being really hard to grasp. Like,
I feel like Malick's much more poetic, and
I feel like Malick doesn't have as much to say.
I don't know about that.
I'm not trying to
disagree with that.
I'm not trying to start a fight here, I guess. I shouldn't have brought that up, but
those are fighting words. I mean, I think they're both. Well, I guess my thought would be that they're both very idiosyncratic filmmakers, but very different ones, both in terms of their approach to the medium and the ideas and themes that they're trying to convey.
I feel like there's so much specificity, even in the most mundane things in David Lynch's writing, that it seems purposeful. It seems like, why would he just think randomly to do that unless he had some purpose, which maybe he doesn't even know fully. He's not fully conscious of it, but at least it feels like there's meaning to it, whereas to me, like, Terrence Malick seems like he just kind of lets things happen. I don't know. I'll stop now. I'll stop trash talking.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what's your verdict?
I would give both. I guess I'm going to give both mild considers, which is a cop-out, but...
Okay. At least you're staying open-minded. You're not going to say... You're leaving yourself open to liking or disliking anything in the future by him.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I'm a big fan of Mulholland Drive. I'm a big fan of some of his movies, and I love that there's people making movies, even though he doesn't seem to be making movies anymore, but people like him that have made movies, right?
Right.
I just don't know. I don't. This didn't resonate strongly enough for me to give it more than a consider, I guess.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, this is future Daniel again. Next week we're going to be reading The Magnificent Seven by Nick Pizzolatto, with current revisions by John Lee Hancock. 7 gunmen in the Old West gradually come together to help a poor village against savage thieves.